And welcome, everyone, to Rock M Radio. This is a brand new episode of Dive Cuts. I'm your host, Sam Snelling. Hello. If you're watching us on YouTube, that's me on the left, the guy talking at you. To my right, or to, I guess, yeah, my right, your right, Matthew Harris, my co-host. Matt, how are you?
I'm doing well. We are fully in feast week now. So I take the week off. It's fantastic to have at 2:00 and be like, oh, Memphis and UConn are going to play. And I get to watch Bobby Hurley nearly murder a ref. It's a fantastic time of year.
Yeah.
Where we sit back, we give thanks for our families and watch $1 million basketball coaches go apoplectic in overtime. But
you're not dialed into the Arkansas Razorbacks Maryland Eastern Shore contest tonight.
Look, don't question my sicko bona fides. I watched Arkansas Lipscomb for at least 10 minutes a couple weeks ago. I've done time with Cal. Did I tap into the Troy game too? Sure, I did. Did I watch the entire 3/4 of them against Pacific? Yeah. Look, I've done my time with Cal's crew. I can take off tonight. I've seen the wares in Fayetteville. I've seen these guys.
If you're curious, with 15 minutes to play, they're up 74-17. I think that one is safely in hand. That's like a Missouri score.
Took them a while to brain some of these teams that they brought in. That's been the thing there. They have not done what Missouri's done until tonight, and they've slid 15 spots in. Slid 15
that's like
spots
a Missouri
in
score. Missouri. So they played 3 games, right, since we last spoke. Is that correct? Yeah. So and all 3 went really well. Mississippi Valley State, they won by 72 points. They beat Pacific by 35. Arkansas Pine Bluff, I don't know what the spread was on that one, but 112-63 is a lot. And so Pacific, obviously, we talked about them kind of going in, really well coached team. And I was even saying, I feel bad for Solomon Bozeman, who's the head coach at Arkansas Pine Bluff.
Yeah.
He's coaching his butt off, and
Absolutely.
that team is well coached. They just
well drilled.
Boy, they don't have much. So,
right. I think that's the last 3 games have sort of, I think, realistically, to varying degrees, shown what the current environment is like for low majors. I mean, I have been to Urbana, Mississippi. I have seen Mississippi Valley State up close. That institution as a whole is undersupported, much less its athletic department. George Ivory's a guy who was Solomon Bozeman's predecessor at UAPB, knows that league well. With good funding relative to that level, George Ivory's a good basketball coach. But that's probably the hardest job in Division I, bar none. To find talent, to find support, to be even competitive in the SWAC, which is the weakest league, is a challenge. I think we in our game thread and even amongst ourselves were really, really intrigued by the Dave Smart hire. That guy, if you follow Jordan Sperber, you follow any scheme guys, is really renowned as sort of a really good and innovative defensive architect. He won a lot of games in Canada, and Texas Tech brought him in to run their defense. That was why he was in Lubbock, and he did a really great job last year for a really, really great defensive head coach. You can see kind of what they want to be defensively. I think they do a really great job of, structuring their defense to find matchups that work. They switch selectively. They're really good at weakening dribblers. They really made Missouri work. I thought Watkins' stat that Missouri did not have an unguarded 2 inside the 3-point arc was stunning. And that's how well they executed the scout and how well Missouri shot guarded looks and how good their shot making was. But, they've got 3 guys that are Division I level or high major level athletes. They just don't have a lot of depth right now. But you could see that team, because they're well scouted, because they're well drilled, because they have a defensive identity, they could probably surprise some people and finish in the middle of the WCC. I firmly believe that. Having watched, I know I watched most of them against Arkansas. I watched a couple of their other games through about halftime. If he had two other solid rotational pieces there, I think they could surprise some people and get, into fifth or sixth in the WCC. And then we saw UAPB. I've covered Solomon Bozeman in college. When he was in college, he's the son of a coach. He's a smart guy. He was a guy that you could trust as an extra assistant on the floor. They run really good stuff. They've got a really good identity. But like you said, there's just not the kind of talent there that even, that you would have expected in the SWAC pre-NIL, pre-transfer portal. So you can see three really good coaches, three tough situations. And realistically, what Missouri had was what a lot of high majors have. They have more talent and they have a crap load of depth. And all three of those teams made it a challenge for about the first 7 or 8 minutes. And then that, eventually those two factors went out. And to Missouri's credit, though, they did not let up off the gas. They have been ruthless in terms of finishing. So yeah, we can give due credit, but we have to give credit to Missouri. We wondered, did they have a killer instinct in them? And the last 3 games have shown that they have that, or they appear to have it. We'll see if it can hold up, though, against better teams.
It's one of those things that, for 2.5, not a full 2.5, but, since Dennis Gates has been the head coach of the program, we haven't really gotten a lot of these kinds of results. I think for the most part, Konza Martin didn't really stack these types of bye games the way that Dennis Gates has. And kind of going back further, I think this is probably closer to some of the ways that like Mike Anderson would kind of schedule some of his early non-con stuff as his line up just a lot of patsies and and really in a lot of ways Gates and Anderson kind of run a similar approach, and they want to play pretty fast. They want to give you pressure defense. So he's not quite as committed to the full court press.
But
the depth and getting into 9 or 10 guys, and in Missouri's case, the other night they got to 16, which we're not entirely sure is legal. I meant to look that up actually for the podcast, and I forgot. I had a lot of stuff going on at the old day job today, and didn't get around to it. But yeah, so it's one thing for for Missouri to kind of play these games, and like the projected spread is usually somewhere between like 25 and 35 points, depending on kind of who who the opponent is. Probably close to 35 is it's like Mississippi Valley State. I think Pacific was only like a 20-point spread or 20, so.
Average was 21-point spread. Yeah. 20 to 21.
So to basically, beat the margin each time by a lot. And also, one of the things that Matt Watkins, has kind of been talking about on the message boards, for those who are subscribers, probably already read it, but he's been talking kind of about the game score, of each game, and essentially like how you want to play against a certain style of opponent is a fair predictor for how you're going to play against better opponents. You're not going to be aces every game, but if you're putting together, 75, 85 game scores, against SEC opponents, you're going to win a lot of games. Yeah. And I think like that's kind of heartening when we're kind of looking back at these results. That you can kind of learn things from these bye games. And I think when you're talking about the type of roster that Dennis Gates has, like it makes a lot of sense why he wants to kind of set the schedule up this way. It doesn't make for the most like intriguing of a season run up. But I kind of get why he does it.
Yeah. Like this is what I track the forecasted margins and how Missouri plays against them. Missouri was expected to beat, if you look at the average analytic margins or average margins from analytic sites. Missouri should have run up a plus 85 margin in the last 3 games. They actually ran up a plus 156 margin, beating it by 72 points. Like, that's why they've moved up 15 spots in KenPom, because they've basically doubled the expected margin. Like, there's a ceiling. I think Watkins and I have looked at this. Like, if you bludgeon a team that's lower than 250 or 300, the ceiling that you're going to move is probably 9 or 10 spots. Like, Missouri moved only 7 spots after beating Mississippi Valley State by 70. So there's a little bit of a capper. But Missouri's moving up basically an average 3 or 4 spots every time they do this. So they are doing what the practical end goal of scheduling these games are. They are running up massive margins. That juices your efficiency metrics, even if you try and have some cappers like scoring, like margin of victory, or even if you're trying to build in sort of a way to cap based on opponent quality. Missouri is absolutely maxing out whatever they can get at this ATM. The withdrawals that they're taking out here are as big as they possibly can be. So to Watkins's point, which he's made here, which I think he looked at 1,000 games, and then he also kind of isolated by games for SEC teams. SEC tournament teams, or teams in the SEC that make the NCAA tournament, typically have game scores around 80. Like, if you go and look at Bart Torvik's page and you go look at the far right column on a team's page and you look at game score, it should be around 80 in these games. Missouri, even if you include, the shooting variance game against Howard and a poor game, defensively against Eastern Washington, and they're 5 bye games so far, they have an average game score around 84. That's really good. So they're basically doubling up forecasted margins. They're 3 or 4, points ahead in game score of where they should be. Like I said last night on Twitter, and even on a post in Blue Sky, none of this is to say this makes Missouri a deadlock stock for a tournament bid. What you can take away from this is Missouri's doing what NCAA tournament teams do in these games. They're building big leads. They're playing clean. And even, even if you go look at sort of how the games play out, Missouri's doing, I think you could say is, the equivalent of running the football and making hard yards. They're having good 2-point defense. They're rebounding. They're forcing turnovers, and they're finishing well at the rim. Is it always the most aesthetically pleasing in the half court? No. Are there some things that I would like to see them improve on or drill? Sure. Is this going to be kind of the free-flowing, fun offense we saw in Gates' first year? Maybe it gets there with some more reps, but it didn't come out of the box looking, pretty and gleaming. But this team does what good teams do. They defend, rebound, force turnovers without fouling, and get to the line and convert rim attempts. Is that a byproduct of them getting in transition a lot? Sure. But again, that's because they're doing the basics well on the other end of the floor. And that's why they're running up big margins. And what I would say is they're not, what have I complained about for 2 years? They would build big leads and then they would leak points in garbage time. They're not doing that now. I mean, they did
a little last night, but it was more kind of treading water as opposed to,
they outscored UAPB by 17 points in garbage time. They took it from 32 to 49 in garbage time. The lead was 28 when garbage time started against Pacific. It was 35 at the end of the game. It was a 32-point lead when garbage time started against Mississippi Valley. It was 72 when it was over. They're not easing off the throttle. And, when I write about lineups after every game, there's a lot of lineups in garbage time. And Dennis is getting funky with some lineups and trying different stuff. And you're not seeing slippage or leakage, which to me is heartening. They've got enough depth and enough talent to where they can go to that 10th, 11th, 12th guy in the bench, and there's no drop-off, which I don't think you would have seen in the first 2 years. That's what I think people should take away from these games. Missouri's not running a lot of complex stuff or fun stuff on offense. They're basically running their base sets. They're getting a lot of stuff in transition. But what they should take away is Dennis is getting funky with some lineups. He's, using it as a crash lab for some lineups, and it's not acting as a drag. So they're beating teams quickly. They're beating them in a way that NCAA tournament teams do, and that's reflected by the fact that when they get into garbage time, they're expanding leads. They're not losing them. So again, this is all we're looking at numbers right now that I think are kind of like early indicators as to how this team plays, but they're playing the way an at-large team does in these games. Now we have to see it translate against Cal and then scale up against Kansas, but I don't know what else people could really want out of this little stretch. They're doing exactly what these games were designed to do. Doesn't guarantee anything, but it's better than what we saw last year in these outings.
Well, and I would sort of, couple that with, we were more than willing to come out and sort of criticize how they played against Eastern Washington.
Right. There was a lack of defensive focus in that game.
But we also fully admit and have been, adamant about them playing really well against Howard. And had both those teams shot the same percentage, it's like from 3-point range, it's a blowout.
Missouri beats the margin in that game too.
Right. But obviously, we know that went. Howard shot well, Missouri shot poorly. And so did you make your threes? So it looks like an underperformance. But I think what I've seen, Eastern Washington aside, is a team that has a lot more focus defensively. Mm-hmm. It's not perfect. I think some of that could kind of come down to lineups, and some of that could kind of come down to, maybe playing guys who are not as defensively locked in as some others. But overall, I think you have to be happy with the way that they've been defending. Josh Gray obviously isn't a whirlwind of a offensive player, but he's been big and physical at the rim. He's been rebounding. Yeah. Mark Mitchell has been rebounding. The guards are getting involved in rebounding. Ant Robinson, again, it's the Arkansas Pine Bluff, but Ant Robinson had double-digit rebounds. These are all things that
ones too.
For all the complaining that we've done and the stylistic choices, we have sort of given credit because this is probably a gamble that they're making in order to try to play a certain way, especially in that first season.
Right.
But this year, I think you're seeing a more kind of, and maybe not, it's still not fully formed, but a more fully formed, version of kind of Dennis Gates' vision of what he wants Missouri basketball to be.
Yeah, I think you could. There were clearly trade-offs that were made in years 1 and 2, and I think people around the program would tell you that to a certain extent, there were choices made to kind of tilt more towards offensive skill because those are the kinds of guys you could get out of the portal. Were probably not to the same caliber like a Mark Mitchell or a Tony Perkins. Caleb Grill and Tamar Bates were probably the highlight guys from last year's portal class. John Tanji, I think, would have been in there. But, I think people would have said, okay, if Tamar puts it together for them, he could be sort of that high major level guy. Tanji was a guy who you were hoping could scale up a little bit or at least translate mostly what he had done. Now he's blossomed this year, but there not been sort of let's go get a former 5-star. Let's go get an all Big Ten level guard. That's scaled up. I think you've seen the one thing we talked about in the summer was when you walked into the practice gym and you looked at the freshmen, they didn't look like freshmen. They look like sophomores. They look like you look at Marcus Allen competing for 50-50 balls. You look at him guarding.
Looks like a 40-year-old dude.
Looks like a 40-year-old dude. You look at Honor Batang, does not look like a college freshman. Like these guys look physically ready to do the kind of stuff that I think people take for granted. If these guys don't always make a difference in the box score, but you look at the rebounding, you look at the off-ball defense they provide. You look at sometimes the deflections they provide. They're doing the kind of stuff with the athleticism, length, and physicality that they possess, even as freshmen, to give you the depth. Even if they're not scoring a lot. When Missouri went to its bench, you'd be like, oh man, they're going to hopefully, ride these guys out here. These guys can come in, and even if they're not like driving the offense, they're doing enough, like we said earlier, to make the fundamentals work of defense, rebounding, good quality deflections and disruption without fouling that make this stuff work. The offensive pieces will come later for them, but they've sort of raised the floor in terms of depth that Missouri has behind the high-level transfers they brought in to sort of drive the offense. So I think the roster's better, and we'll see what those guys become in due time. The one thing that I've been heartened by is Ant Robinson's, clearly made a jump. Aiden Shaw's, we'd like to see him be offensively inclined a little bit more, but I think he's more consistent defensively. He's a guy now you can look at and go, okay, we can trust that guy as a small ball 5. That's progress. Trent Pierce is a guy who I thought against, what did we say against Pacific? He was all over the place. He was active. He was doing a lot of things that, Trent didn't do last year. He was fighting 50-50 balls. He was looking to get in and stick his nose in on defense. He was trying to attack the rim. Those are things that you didn't see a year ago. So I think that's the other thing you come away with here is, okay, Tony Perkins hasn't played as much as you want because he's hurt. Jacob Cruz isn't shooting the way we want. Well, we got some guys who are finding ways to fill in at the margins and, give us some stuff back. So that I think it's heartening to watch some guys that were recruited, and that are supposed to be long-term core pieces, finding ways to make impacts and contribute and sort of as a collective group make this team better. We'll see again. Maybe this all goes up in smoke, when Cal comes in, and we know how much Bill Self loves turning the dagger and twisting the knife when it's KU involved, and he gets another week-long break to prepare. They've got to stop doing this. They've got to stop giving Bill a week to get ready. But I think people can look at this group so far and at least walk away, from the first 5 or 6 games, this stretch and going, okay, this looks like a better product than we saw a year ago.
So I do want to circle back to my I don't think Marcus Allen actually looks like a 40-year-old man. This is a bit of a joke that I had, that my comp for him was that of a 40-year-old man who plays like a 40-year-old man who used to be athletic. And
I'm sure that would make Marcus feel better. I'm sure that would make him feel better at 19 years old.
Well,
he already looks like someone twice his age.
Like he's got like that movement that kind of reminds you of like a football player who's playing basketball. Like he's thick through the hips, but he knows how to use his body. And I think like that's one of those things that like guys really learn to do. Like when you start to lose your athleticism, like you start to learn how to throw your hips here and there and how to use your upper body to kind of get the ball up and onto the glass. And he already knows how to do all that stuff. So I mean that in like the biggest complimentary kind of way. Like he's a guy who just has like a knack for knowing how to use his body. He's not the most explosive guy. But he's big and powerful and knows how to throw his weight around. I think that's a compliment. So that's my 40-year-old who's lost his athleticism comp.
I think you're actually I think you're envious of Marcus there in some ways. You wish you had.
I think when we were at practice, I'm like, I wonder if I can even touch the rim anymore. I haven't played basketball in probably 10 years. And I scraped the rim. I'm proud of myself. I did scrape the rim. But yeah, I think the days of dunking a basketball are probably long behind me. So we're at 5-1. The Memphis loss, while still stings, certainly is looking better as Memphis season seems to be going on here. They're now up to 29 and
Memphis
Ken
still has like
Palm.
3 plot twists in them. What are you talking about? There's at least 3 more plot twists in that screenplay for Penny's Crew.
Hey, I love it. I mean, they they play really well together. I don't. I know people like to like kind of dig on Penny. I actually saw somebody on Blue Sky was talking about. Um, oh, it was I think what's it? Will Warren's That's by
Yeah.
Will. He said something about like like Penny shitting the bed late against pardon my French kids against UConn. And like that didn't happen. Like UConn like made some threes, and
Yeah.
like Memphis missed their shots. Like that runs happen in basketball. Like I don't understand how it's the coach screwing up because uh what's their star
It's
freshman?
Penny's fault that Dane Danger decided to shove another guy after UConn
Yeah,
picked up a tech. That's Penny's fault. That's Penny's fault.
yeah.
No, it was
I'm No, but
the
I was basically I was trying to kind of pivot forward here as we're looking because Lindenwood is coming in on Wednesday. We are recording this Monday evening. If you're not with us live, not many are. But Monday night it's 8:30. Wednesday Lindenwood comes in. Thursday is Thanksgiving. I'm still kind of upset that the Missouri Arkansas football game has moved to Saturday. I think that stinks. I like the fact that it was on Friday. Um, I like basically getting my weekend free. Like that was part of it. But then Mizzou, after they play Lindenwood, like they're off until they play Cal next
yep.
Tuesday in the ACC SEC Challenge. So we're gonna have like some sparse kind of games going forward. Um, very likely Missouri is gonna win on Wednesday. Matt, you're gonna be in attendance
Yeah.
in the building
I'll be in the building watching
in the lower bowl.
potentially in the lower bowl. We'll see. We'll see. But yeah, I'll be there to
I'm pretty sure if
watch.
you're in the upper bowl and you wanted to move to the lower bowl, you could probably find seats
The stewards
wherever you want.
probably are probably nice. They'll probably be like, yeah, okay, it's time for Thanksgiving. Go get on down there, get after it. Yeah,
Mhm.
I'll be there to watch them. Hopefully, wrap up this stretch of bye games by quickly flaying Lindenwood and getting on with it. Which I do feel for Lindenwood in a certain sense. That program, what I think they're coming out of their probation period now. They have to be. Yeah, you have to do your first 3 years in D1. You cannot make the NCAA tournament. This is their fourth. This is the first year they can do it. That's got to be so hard to be a program that every time you have to go recruit a kid, it's like, hey, we don't have much in IL. We just joined Division One, and guess what? We cannot go play in the tournament. So if you want to cap your career with a tournament bid, we're not the place for you. So, but they've got some guys that are local. They're going to try and build locally, which would not surprise you. They have a kid that was a McClure North grad. I'm looking it up right now. Aeneas Futrell, who's a pretty good shooter for them. They went and they made a smart pickup and brought him home from a Division II. They've got Jadis Jones, the Gatorade State Player of the Year last year for New Madrid County Central. He's going to be on the roster. Then they got a Cardinal Ritter point guard, I think Clayton Jackson there. So they're doing what I think you do, which is you go try and find some MAC transfers, some Horizon League transfers, and then you try and find guys close to home that aren't going to be maybe going to SLU or Mizzou or SEMO, and you try and get those guys in. And you try and build, a nice little local group, and hopefully you get a core out of that. So, we'll see if Kyle Gardman's, got that going. But in the near term, this should probably be a 30-point win for Missouri. Hopefully nobody gets hurt. Hopefully they run up another big margin. And then
Lindenwood did take care of St. Louis College of Pharmacy in big fashion. 68-point win, I believe, was the margin there. The you Tactics just couldn't hold up in that game.
Don't worry, I'm sure they got some good paying notes afterwards.
Hey,
They knew how to.
The
They knew how to.
the
They knew how to.
the
How to
program
use
leading
name
the program leading scorer for all time at the St. Louis College of Pharmacy as a Webster Groves grad.
everywhere. You're everywhere. Take Decker
Yeah,
all the way down to the Eutectics, baby. But
yeah.
yeah, it's we'll see what they do. But the other thing to keep in mind why the margins are important is next Monday, everyone's favorite metric debuts. It's the net rankings, baby. Let's get ready for some people to overreact about an unweighted, an unadjusted efficiency metric to debut next week. It's the takes are going to be scorching. The
It
screen
is
grabs are going to be plentiful.
it is weighted. However, it will not have any preseason weight.
Right.
So like they do adjust for opponent, but any preseason expectations are just not factored in at all, which can be problematic, because you know honestly, like if Missouri had not played Memphis and were just beating the absolute living hell out of a bunch of teams in like the 330s and below, like they would probably be a top 20 level
I would
program.
be. I'm fully prepared to see Missouri inside the top 50 if they run up another big night because
Yeah.
they've easily offset underperforming against Howard and against Eastern Washington. At this
Mm-hmm.
point, it's all surplus. There'll be a cap to it, but if Missouri shows up inside the top 50, people are like, they haven't beaten anyone. I'm like, well, they've beaten some people by very large margins. So that will drop on Monday, and then they get what, Cal on Tuesday or on Wednesday
Cal on
that week?
Tuesday.
Cal
Yeah,
on
Cal on
Tuesday.
Tuesday. The challenge takes place over 2 days.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like a nice little you come out of feast week and then you get the ACC
Yeah, you
SEC
get,
challenge.
and then I think you get, there's the Big East, Big 12 event too that's happening. So they're doing stuff, I think, in there, or Gavitt games are over. So you're not doing the Big East, Big 12 anymore. So I think we'll see what it is. But there's another challenge series next week. Either way, then there's a 5-day layoff before border war
Before
and
KU.
arrives.
And then you
With
basically get another week off, which I'm guessing would that be finals week?
Well, that's finals week. That'll be finals week.
Yeah. So you get Kansas finals week, and then Saturday you get LIU.
Yep. And then bragging rights after that. So,
Well, Jacksonville State then.
forgot. How could I forget Ray Turner's crew? How could I forget those guys? How could I forget the Gamecocks? So the schedule will. The one thing about this schedule is the games come fast and furious in the first 3 weeks, and then they start to ebb down in December. So the Cal game will be a good entry point. I think a good game for people to kind of go back and at least look at the box score was Cal played Vandy. Vandy beat the brakes off of them for most of that game in Nashville. If you think you're better than Vandy, you should probably handle Cal, comfortably. Dennis should stick it to his alma mater. If Missouri is a tournament team, that should be a game. It will not be 30, but it should not be 2 or 3. It should be a comfortable win for him. So that's what to look for over the next week. And then just pray that border wars within 15. Just I'm going to be really, really modest and just hope that after recent years, there's game pressure at the under 8 in the second half. Just give me that. There needs to be some.
They only
game
lost by
pressure.
9 last year.
A lot of work happened to get that down. A lot of work happened to get that down. Either way, fighting. Either way, we're almost through this stretch of bye games. I've learned things. I've seen things where we're doing things. We're looking at lineup data. We're seeing some trends. We're seeing some scheme tweaks. We're seeing Missouri try some different things. If you're true sickos like us, I mean, what did I do? I found pick and roll adjustments from against Pacific. There's stuff you can find in this. But I get why people are yearning for that Cal game, just for something resembling a competitive Division I basketball program. But we have Lindenwood to go.
Yeah. So I would encourage everybody, if you're listening, to go check out our new site, Matt. RockM.plus has been updated. Pretty happy with how it looks and how things are kind of flowing right now. We're still making some tweaks. I'll throw this up on the board, but so the folks can see it. Because right now, like Matt, you're like the only guy who's actually publishing articles there, which is going to change. Like we're experimenting with some things, but I think it looks good. It flows good. You can see Matt's most recent lineup performance, which he's doing after each game. Here's his, and this is all free for everybody right now. We're leaving some of these things up so people can kind of see proof of concept before they decide to subscribe or not. But it's pretty dope. Like, right? You proud of your work here?
I mean, those are the bad positions. So, I mean, yeah, it is. It's nice to be able to get stuff up quicker. I think in the past we had always sort of treated some of the film and lineup stuff as a little bit more long-term based stuff for the main site here. Subscribers have given us the resources to do the video and data stuff to where we can turn things like this around quicker. I think this was a day to turn this around in the past. Before subscriber support, it might have taken me 3 or 4 or 5 days to do it. But it's really, really nice. Like you guys are even making it possible for us to like have the editing stuff to where I can put better captions in so you can see what's on the screen and know what's going on. But yeah, it's still a learning curve for me. I haven't been in the WordPress CMS in quite a few years, but it's nice to be able to get this kind of stuff put together, and hopefully we can turn around more data and video stuff faster, so you guys can sort of see the things that we see when we're watching a game. This was I think born out of watching them against Howard, verifying it against EWU, and then writing it after the EWU game and turning it around in a day. So it's been nice to be able to get that kind of stuff up. And then on the boards, if it's not a full-fledged piece, sometimes I'll just notice a couple of things in a game. Like I think against Pacific, they had tried a different way to run pick and roll. So I grabbed those 5 or 6 clips and put them together and put them up on the board just so people could see, hey, they've kind of tweaked how they've done this. And those pick and roll tweaks were built into the changes that were made in that piece you just showed. So hopefully we can sort of show over time kind of how they're adapting and evolving and what they're trying to do on a night in and night out basis. So that's, again, because we have subscriber support to give us the tools and the access to that stuff to make it happen. So glad that we can give people a return on their investment and hopefully more of it.
Yeah, I'm pretty stoked about where things have kind of gone to date. I think we're only going to keep getting better with it. Like I said, I think that there's just a whole lot of things that we're able to do on, because like I think there's been a little bit of a migration from like, a lot of people leaving Twitter and ending up on Blue Sky. Removing anything like political from that decision making. I think I'm going to do a quick explainer of why I am a supporter of Blue Sky and why you will never see ads on Rock M Plus. And that is because, and not just Twitter, and this isn't even an Elon Musk thing. This is actually something that Twitter started doing prior to his taking over. But they made it harder for people to leave Twitter. And it made it harder for people like us who are small publishers to share our content on Twitter and to get people to look at the stuff that we're doing. They're not alone. Facebook does it. Instagram does it. They make it really, really hard to leave their platform. They do that on purpose. Blue Sky does not do that. So that's one of the reasons why I'm very supportive of this migration to Blue Sky. I think the opportunity exists there to have a more engaged, even if it's a smaller audience, a more engaged audience, and for a site like us, who like particularly Mizzou sports, Mizzou football, Mizzou basketball, in particular, our fan bases I think are passionate. They're not overwhelmingly huge. We don't have Ohio State football or Alabama football, Duke basketball levels of fandom. But I think the people that are into the sports, if you're listening to this, you're clearly a Mizzou basketball fan. I think you're going to be able to find a home, like following us on Blue Sky, and going to Rock M Plus and having a positive experience on the web at Rock M Plus. I think so much of the web right now is barely navigable, and no matter like what sports site you're on, it's just loaded with ads, and you're inundated with like betting options. And I don't care if people bet or not. Like, I actually, I understand there's some fun to be had there. But I just really feel like if you're a supporter of the open web, if you believe in small publishers, that's what we're doing. And as long as I am running this, as long as I guess we are running it, we're not going to use ads. We're going to be completely subscriber supported, and we're going to do the best job that we can with the people that support us. So that's my pitch. That's essentially what I'm trying to say. What I think we're trying to do with Rock M Plus, not only give you a great place to learn about different things with Mizzou basketball, and hopefully soon more Mizzou football stuff, but a place where you can grow within the community, and a place that is going to be a pleasant experience. Like there's a lot of unpleasant experiences on the internet these days. Like, let's find a place that isn't that. So that's basically where I'm at.
All my pitches, Watkins and I are around. Well, probably less during the holidays over the next couple of days, but one of us is at least in there every day. If you interact with us or you react to something we do, we'll try and get back to you about it. I think for us, we both, believe that, our readers, really are more than customers. They're people that want to learn. They're people that are interested. And, I think they want to have conversations around this stuff, and we enjoy it. We like being able to have that. We like when our readers ask us questions and sometimes push back on what we're saying, as long as everyone's being respectful and, thoughtful about it. It's a really, really great way. We've enjoyed the boards, on game thread nights. I think for Memphis, we had close to 50 people in, checking in things. We feel like, from our perspective, I think we've all said this, we enjoy being in the game threads. The one thing that I always disliked about tweeting back when I was a reporter was my job was to watch a basketball game and to like be engaged and to try and notice things. And that's harder when you feel like you have a side running commentary via Twitter or wherever else. We do post in game threads. We do put stuff in, but it feels like we can be a little bit more intentional. And if we don't have something every 2 minutes, we don't have to comment on every foul. We don't have to comment on every play. We can take a little bit more of a longitudinal sort of look at games. And it's been nice because, I feel like I'm seeing things more than I did, prior to, going into the game threads. And again, you all are there, people are there, and it's a really, really healthy way for everyone to sort of digest a basketball game. So I would say if you want to talk to us, if you want to engage, if you want to get in, ask us questions, or if you hate what we do, or you have questions about what we do, we're there. You can find us. We're Team Real Name as well. You know who we are. So that's my pitch. Show up, chat with us, see what we're doing, and hopefully you'll enjoy it. And again, I say this, I've said it a lot, and I'll say it again here. Your dollars go directly into the product. It goes into us building and maintaining the site. It goes into us having the resources, to write the stuff that we do, you see everything that comes out of it. It's whatever you give us is something that, results in the product itself. You can feel like you're, literally investing in what we do. And that comes with the responsibility for us to do things that are high quality and do things that respect that investment. So to me, I think it's a really, really wonderful relationship to have if it goes well.
Yeah. So that's us spending 3 or 4 minutes talking about Rock M Plus, and I think the steps that we've taken in the last few months. So even if we've got several annual subscribers who maybe aren't checking in. If you are one of those and you're still within your annual subscription, been a while since you've been to the forums, make sure you check out the new forums. The new forums run great. They look great. The new site. Eventually, we are going to have kind of like a paywall on some of the articles that Matt's publishing now. But I'm just really excited about the ability that we have to kind of build something that just works for people, and that is something that allows folks to kind of be passionate about Missouri sports and in an environment that they aren't bombarded with ads that make everything run like crap. So that's it. Lindenwood on Wednesday, Thanksgiving on Thursday. Hope football beats those Hogs again on Saturday. And then, we'll try to tune back up and maybe kind of give you a little bit of a Cal preview. We'll just kind of see how it goes. Because I think Watkins has got a verdict coming too, so we don't inundate people with too many podcasts over the holidays.
I mean, that's what this has done. The subscribers have now let Watkins give full access to video pods. You can debate whether that was a good idea or a bad idea, but it's happened. The man now knows how to work a video player and a podcasting setup. We created a monster, honestly.
Yeah, we've unleashed Matt Watkins and the verdict, which is only going to probably expand. For now, though, thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll be back next week with more podcasts. Mizzou will be back with more basketball. I'm sure we'll have more to talk about. So happy Thanksgiving, everybody, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Rock M Radio, a proud partner of Fans First Sports Network. Rock M Radio is the official podcast network of Rock M Plus, a new and exciting subscription service provided by me and the other voices of Rock M Radio. Please take a few moments to head over to rockm.plus and sign up for an account today. The cost is only $5 a month, and the benefits include access to our live podcast, a subscriber-only message board, weekly newsletters, and more. If you enjoyed this episode of Rock M Radio and would like to see more just like it beamed directly into your personal device, make sure to click the subscribe button below and tell your friends. Our podcast feed is available through the Apple Podcast app for iPhone, Google Podcast app for Android, whatever app you listen to your podcast. You can also find Rock M Radio on Spotify. If you're looking for a podcast about your favorite team that is not the Missouri Tigers, Fan First Sports Network is your answer. A full podcast network loaded with the team-specific podcasts covering Major League Baseball, the NFL, NHL, NBA, MLS, and more. And we'll be back with more episodes of Rock M Radio coming to you soon.